Once upon a time, Diane Cam and Kevin Murtaugh find their missing piece in each other.
There was this instant connection. They were both looking for the same thing in the next chapters in their life.
She's lovely in every way. And he fell in love with her.
I now pronounce you husband and wife.
There was a sweet innocence to it.
But that innocence is destroyed in the most gruesome way.
The body was found so mutilated, almost like a ritualistic killing.
A human being doesn't do that to somebody.
It was something that you only would have seen in some kind of a horror flick.
For this couple, the honeymoon is over. In Fort Thomas, Kentucky, in a lovely stone church, Diane Cam is almost ready, fussed over by her adoptive mom and teenage sister. The 22-year-old nurse is a lifelong wild child and no traditional bride.
She didn't wear white. Yellow was her favorite color. And she wanted to wear yellow, and she wanted daisies in her bouquet.
She wore yellow, the color of sunshine. This was a happy flower child who wanted to show her happiness in her wedding dress.
It's a dress she's had for a while, so that's the old. She dons new pearl earrings, a borrowed pearl necklace, and a blue garter.
Oh, no, you don't.
As she walks down the aisle, she locks eyes with her man, 24-year-old restaurant worker, Kevin Murtaugh.
Like every bride, she wants to see that, how beautiful you look face from the groom.
And there it is.
It was just a look of love. Here comes my beautiful bride. Here she comes. She's looking up at him and going, wow, I'm actually going to do this. I'm actually marrying this man that I love.
They've only known each other 3 months, but their connection is both a deep and a healing one. Each was an orphan, adopted by couples who eventually divorced. They've known years of loss and loneliness.
Feeling a sense of rejection, abandonment, may really have driven them to a sense of strong, solid commitment to each other.
Kevin, will you please place the ring on Diane's left finger?
After feeling lost for most of his life, Kevin has finally found a home with Diane. Together they will create the perfect family they both desperately crave.
Her wearing the yellow dress was just perfect because it was sunshine. There was a sweet innocence to it. The only thing missing was the rainbow going over the church.
But that winter, a dark cloud creeps across their bright new life together. On January 21st, 1977, Diane doesn't show up for a scheduled nursing shift. And her mother hasn't heard from her in several days.
And Mom felt that something was wrong.
She checks in with Kevin, who assures her everything is okay. He explains Diane has simply taken off for Florida to visit her father. It makes sense. Diane has gone to her dad's before to clear her head. She made a similar trip just a month earlier.
Because of Diane's track record and sort of history of abandonment and fears of abandonment, her style was, when the heat gets turned up, I'm going to run away.
Her teenage sister, Carrie, also thinks that's where Diane is.
My thought was she'd run back down to Daddy's. The day I was told she disappeared, I said, she's gone down to Dad's again.
Maybe she's still en route.
This happened at a time when people didn't just have a cell phone where you could just call and text and let your loved ones know where you were. So it wasn't that unusual for someone to just drop off, the face of the earth for just a few days, especially if they were traveling somewhere. So for Kevin, it wasn't unusual that when Diane went to go see her father that he didn't hear from her for a few days.
But after 5 days, Diane's mother can't shake the feeling that something is terribly wrong.
Mothers have an uncanny instinct with their kids. Whether it's a birth mother or an adoptive mother, a mother knows when something's gone wrong with her child.
Born in Louisville, Kentucky, Diane was adopted by William and Mildred Cam at 6 months old after being given up by her birth parents. Diane is the second of 3 kids adopted by the Cams, including an older brother and younger sister, Carrie.
My parents, they never made you feel adopted. They felt like they chose you. You know, they loved us no matter what.
They've sure got their hands full with their feisty Diane.
She was a free spirit. She was not afraid to say what she wanted.
She was a redhead who had the temper, had the fire in her.
Then when she's 15, her parents divorce. Her happy family life as she knows it changes forever.
Diane was adopted by a very warm, loving family. To lose that can really bring up feelings of abandonment and of rejection.
Diane struggled with the divorce, the not understanding, and feeling not sure where her anchor was.
But she refuses to let the pain get in the way of her future. She reins in her free-spirited nature enough to become a nurse, though now she's a sassy blonde one.
Even though Diane fit pretty well in with the hippie subculture, peace and love were her mantras, she also wanted to have some kind of maturity with herself, some kind of structure and stability with it.
She longs for a man with whom she can have a loving family.
She was looking for that magical life. She needed her vinyl records and she needed a stereo. And just somebody to love.
Almost 4,000 miles away in Ireland, Kevin Murtaugh is also abandoned as an infant. His birth parents leave him bundled on the doorstep of a convent. At age 4, an American couple adopts him and whisks him off to the Chicago suburbs. But a few years later, Kevin's world is rocked just like Diane's, when his adoptive parents reveal they too are ending their marriage.
This had to have brought up some pretty strong feelings for him. This sense of, here we go again, I'm being abandoned again.
He struggled with not understanding what life was tossing at them when the parents divorced.
What that could leave Kevin wanting as an adult is a place of safety, a place where no one would ever leave him again.
As soon as he can, Kevin enlists in the army in search of the structure he craves. But he still doesn't feel whole. When he gets out, he drifts from place to place, working odd jobs and looking for love.
And all of this showed that he wanted to find some place to fit in. He was looking for some way to do that or someone to do that with.
In 1973, he arrives in Fort Thomas, Kentucky, where an army buddy lives.
Kevin. Oh, man.
He wanted something steady in his life. This was a man on a quest.
Kevin's friend takes him to a party one night and introduces him to a lovely young nurse named Diane.
Diane? Kevin, nice to meet you.
When Diane and Kevin first came together, there was that sort of instant moment of magic, that attraction.
As they share their stories, they realize that although they grew up so far apart, they've led amazingly similar lives
I was adopted.
and have similar longings.
God, I was adopted too.
They were looking for a very particular form of safety, a very particular safe harbor, so to speak. And in each other, they very likely felt that connection almost immediately.
It's the very beginning of feeling whole again for both of them. But now it seems that the powerful forces that drew them together may have reversed course. As Diane's mother tries to calm her fears about her missing daughter, just 15 miles away in the rural fields of Campbell County, a teenage hunter on his way home sees a group of carrion birds circling something in the snow by the side of the road.
So he walks over to the gathering of birds, and he sees the most gruesome, terrifying thing he could find. It's a dead body. Just a torso, no arms, no legs, literally just a torso.
To put myself in his shoes, I don't know what he could have thought, because it's a horror show. It's exactly what it is.
He runs home to tell his mother, who immediately dials 911. Responding police have been to many crime scenes, but the horror of this one is beyond anything they've seen before. The torso is that of a woman, with the head still attached. It doesn't look like she was dismembered by animals. The cuts are clean. Someone chopped her up and dumped her. There is no trace of her arms and legs.
There was a tremendous search done within a large area around where the torso was found, and nothing was discovered.
A woman found brutally murdered just miles from the home of missing bride, Diane Murtaugh. Has the newlyweds' young love come to a shocking and sudden end? 8 months after Kevin and Diane Murtaugh marry, a frozen torso turns up in a snowy Kentucky field 15 miles from their home. The woman's limbs were cut off and have not been found.
Clearly, the fact that this body was so carefully dismembered shows that this was something that was purposeful, that had some evil behind it.
The remains are sent to the morgue.
As I approached the body, I looked into her eyes. There was no color in her eyes, just looking straight up at the ceiling. It was macabre. It was surreal.
Her eyes are clear because they're frozen solid.
I've seen a lot of things. This wasn't my first rodeo. But when I think of that case, I think of the eyes. Haunting, just haunting.
It's such an outrageous murder. Who could be so depraved as to dismember a beautiful young woman and dump her like trash?
Because the body was found so mutilated, it had more of the feel of almost like a ritualistic killing.
Police note that between September 1975 and November 1976, the bodies of 3 area women in their early 20s had been found dumped in the woods less than 20 miles away. All 3 bodies were nude, and 1 had been dismembered. The last one was discovered just 2 months before this torso. Is a depraved psycho on the prowl? It's so unsettling. Police are frightened for their own family's safety.
I immediately called my wife. I had a teenage daughter, Jody. I said, keep her in. Keep her in. We got a monster running around.
A full autopsy will have to wait until the remains thaw overnight. For now, all investigators know is she appears to be an adult white female with blonde hair. They begin checking missing persons reports to see if they can find a match. Just a year earlier, Diane is sure she's found her match. She's giddy with new love as she introduces Kevin to her family.
She was just ecstatic to have this nice-looking young man who had been in the Army.
They share the experience of being abandoned by their birth parents, and yet their personalities are so different.
Kevin didn't say a whole lot. He was just very kind of quiet, and we're like, how's he gonna take this wild child?
But he cherishes Diane's outgoing personality.
Come on, I don't want to talk anymore. Let's dance.
Dance?
Come on.
She always does this. I'm sorry.
He just seemed to be in love with her, wanting to be there, hating to leave her side at any time. I'm here for you. I love you. Let's be a family.
They really believed that they'd found the match made in heaven, that they would have children together, that they would never leave.
Within 2 months, Kevin realizes he needs to make Diane his wife.
He was going to hold on to her tight because she brought so many of the things she wanted. Most importantly, she brought stability.
Diane might be a rebel, but Kevin is old-fashioned.
I have fallen deeply in love with with your daughter.
I came to Mom and said, you know, I would like to marry your daughter. May I have your blessing?
And of course you have my blessing.
That just endeared him more to Mom. That's all my parents ever wanted for any of us, was to have somebody there for us, to be happy in our own worlds.
Not only does Mom give her blessing,
Use this to propose to Diane.
she gives her her old engagement ring.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
With her family's permission, Kevin surprises Diane.
There's something I need to, ask you. Diane, will you be my wife?
She can't wait to tell the world the news.
Yes.
She comes running into the house after he gave her, proposed and gave her the ring, gushing, holding the hand out and letting everybody see that she was engaged.
I'm sure she felt thrilled. This was a moment in her life where everything was going to be okay. He chose me. He loves me. We're going to be together forever and ever.
But now, it appears forever may not have lasted as long as she'd hoped. 12 hours after being discovered, the remains thaw enough for an autopsy. The medical examiner confirms the limbs were cut off with a combination of a knife and some other sort of blade post-mortem. Broken bones in her neck suggest the killer choked the life out of her.
Strangling somebody is no easy task. You have to completely overpower them while you watch the life drain out of them.
The medical examiner believes she was dead for at least 2 days before being found, but can't pinpoint an exact time of death. The day after the gruesome find, police release details of the shocking crime, hoping someone will know the victim. An icy fear grips the community.
It's probably the most vicious crime to occur in Fort Thomas. We had never had that occur in town. It was just such a quiet place.
It was something that you only would have seen in some kind of a horror flick. Everyone wondered who would have done this and if there was a serial killer on the loose in their town.
People were just going crazy, and everybody was frightened. Lock your doors.
As word spreads, police find a new witness who spotted a very distinct car near the dump site.
They'd seen a yellow VW Bug out in that area, the place, and around the time that the body was discovered.
But the witness didn't see the driver. Seeking more clues, investigators set up a tip line. Many worried callers believe the mystery woman could be their missing loved one. One of those callers is Mildred Cam. She hasn't heard from her daughter Diane in almost a week.
Police hotline. My name is Mildred Cam, and I'm calling about the woman's body that was found in the field.
Tip line operators take down the details and ask Detective Heddeberg to check it out. He goes to the address left by Diane's mother. He's expecting to speak with Mildred, but a man answers the door.
Can I help you?
And I said, well, I must have the wrong apartment. So I'm looking for Mildred Cam. And he said, that's my mother-in-law. And I said, well, the lady who's calling us told us that her daughter is missing. That would be your wife. Is that right?
Kevin explains Diane isn't missing at all. She's just driven down to Florida to stay with her father for a few days. She left 5 days before, saying she needed some time alone after a lover's spat.
Got married a few months ago, so we're still kind of working things out.
He's tried to explain it all to Mildred, but, well, you know how moms worry. It makes sense to Heddeberg. Newlyweds do often argue as they adjust to life together. The detective says he'll talk with Diane's mother the following day to try and calm her fears. At that meeting, Mildred provides dental records, praying they'll prove the body in the morgue isn't her daughter. But her gut tells her otherwise.
I think that from the minute she picked up the phone to call, that she knew. I believe that she knew that it was Diane.
The dental records confirm her mother's fears. The woman that was found is Diane. Had she been stopped and attacked before she even made it out of town on her trip to Florida?
They started to think, okay, maybe we should look into released felons. Let's look into possible truckers that have been coming through the area. I mean, this was a big field by a big road. It could have been that on her way to see her father, someone had stopped her.
Was she targeted by an unknown serial killer who's been stalking young women in the area for the past 2 years? If so, how long will it be before another young woman falls prey to this cold-hearted murderer?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. It was just a horrible, horrific situation.
Just 8 short months after Diane and Kevin Murtaugh become the loving family they'd always dreamed of, Diane is murdered, dismembered and dumped in a field. Now police have to break the terrible news to her family.
I can still see everything so clearly. No, it's my uncle standing at the door with 2 strange men
Kevin, I got some bad news.
to tell us that this body they have found is my sister.
No.
You're lying.
No.
And I think he's lying. There's just no way.
I can't imagine the pain of a mother to lose her adult daughter. This is a baby she rocked in the cradle. This is a toddler she took to preschool, who she helped with her homework.
For the new groom, it's too painful to accept.
You just heard him sob, saying it couldn't be her, it can't be her. All you heard was just sobbing.
How can he even process this horrible news?
He had lost this woman whom he'd had this whirlwind courtship with, this marriage, this new start in life.
After the body was identified, Kevin dropped out of sight. He was in seclusion.
He's always been so quiet. So maybe this is how he needs to grieve.
Everyone was in just such shock, that such a bad thing could happen to Diane.
Loved ones tell police Diane drives a yellow VW Bug, the same type of car witnesses saw near where her body was dumped. Investigators cast a wide net to try to catch her killer.
We contacted every law enforcement agency in the area. Who do you have that you've arrested that's committed violent crime towards women, cutting crimes? Who have you got that is crazy enough to do something like this? So we're making these lists, because we knew that we're going to have to check out a lot of people.
Somehow they must find whoever so violently ripped Diane away from her loved ones. Just as she was beginning the stable relationship she'd waited her whole life for. Now that she and Kevin are engaged, the loneliness is finally gone.
And it was just amazing, the difference in her. It was that puppy love, how you always want to be at that person's side and hold on to him, and her eyes sparkled because she was so happy. I can't say he had the same glow as Diane, but men don't really glow when they're in love. They become kind of goofy and silly. He would bring her like a flower or come home with little trinkets.
Love is the best drug, isn't it? It makes hormones like oxytocin, the female bonding hormone, come up. It really stimulates the pleasure centers of your brain, just like a drug.
White.
Diane is all aglow, planning the happiest day of her life. The easy breezy bride wants it small and simple, and not in a traditional setting.
Emily, this is the perfect place for that dream wedding to come true.
I don't really want to get married in a church. I want to get married outside.
Her mom would like to have it at the family's church in town.
My parents were married in the church back in 1942. Everybody in the family had, been either baptized or married or confirmed in that church. I think if they could have done it barefoot and out in a field somewhere, she'd have been even happier, but she gave in a little bit to having it done in a church just to satisfy my parents, I think, more so than anything.
What matters most to Diane is the love surrounding the couple. Friends and family sharing their joy.
Just do this, big mom.
Fine, we'll get married in a church.
Kevin has lost touch with his adoptive parents. Diane is his family now, and they share the same friends. So keeping the wedding small is no problem. The pair rent the perfect starter love nest, just minutes from Diane's mom, and move in together.
I want to make sure yours is good enough.
My vows are good enough.
There they finalize wedding preparations, including intimate promises they'll make at the altar.
They wrote their own vows on little pieces of paper of what they wanted to say to each other.
They both want to have kids right away.
They now had this opportunity to create a really happy and united family, bring children into this world that could have some stability and structure that they had so wanted and needed growing up.
They're basking in the warm glow of their new life together. But now that life has gone icy cold. Investigators seek a possible serial killer among known criminals in the area, but they also have to look closer to home. To Detective Hedderberg, the intensity of the crime feels personal.
The motive in my mind would have been rage, that this person became enraged, out of control.
He asks her mom if Diane had any enemies.
No.
I said, who do you think did this? I want to pick your brain. Who did this, if you were to say somebody? She couldn't come up with an answer.
Have you talked to Kevin?
Teenage Carrie actually suspects Kevin because she knew the couple argued at times. Her mom can't imagine it. Lover spats are so normal. Maybe the teen just took them too seriously. Detectives asked Kevin to come in for an official interview.
I asked Kevin who would have committed this crime, and he said one of her boyfriends.
Kevin tells them about a guy in Florida that Diane dated before him. He thinks the guy wanted to rekindle things. Had he come to Kentucky to try to win her back, then killed her when she refused?
Maybe she got married, his heart was broken, and then maybe he just went off. He became a person of interest, the ex-boyfriend. He was very interesting to us.
Fort Thomas authorities begin the red tape paperwork to get permission and funds to travel to Florida. They also contact Sarasota police, asking them to check this guy out before they get there. And they keep working the possible serial killer angle.
Police were urgently chasing down any kind of leads, any possible leads. They wanted to make sure that this didn't happen to anybody else in their community.
Did Diane fall victim to a psychopathic serial killer? Or maybe a jealous ex? Or is there someone else who had an axe to grind with the bubbly bride and murder in their heart?
Kiss the bride.
All Diane Murtaugh wanted was a husband and family to call her very own. But her dreams died with her the night she was strangled and dismembered, most likely by someone who knew her. Her new husband suspects Diane's ex-boyfriend. But before detectives get a chance to travel to Florida to investigate him, they notice Kevin hasn't been as helpful as they would expect a grieving husband to be.
He was detached. He was kind of in his own world. If it's my wife, I'm going nuts. You know, I want to know. I want to be involved in this investigation.
But Kevin never calls to check up on the case.
The pendulum was swinging towards Kevin. Now we're starting to get the other side of the coin. All stories have two sides.
If Kevin's hiding something, police want to put some pressure on him. 3 days after Diane's body is found, they ask him to come down to the morgue to personally ID the body. When he arrives, they see he's driving Diane's yellow VW. Was he in it when witnesses saw the car near the dump site around the time Diane went missing?
really hard. Probably the hardest thing you've ever done, okay?
They take him inside to view the body, hoping seeing her might get him to crack.
Is that Diane? Is that your wife?
He just refused to identify her.
But it doesn't mean he killed her. Maybe the horror is just too much. Kevin's always been the silent type.
If you put yourself in his position, I could see that. I can't describe what it's like looking in that face.
I just can't do it anymore. I can't do it.
Are police wrong about Kevin? Has his silence just been because he's too devastated to speak? After all, it is an impossibly horrific death. For a woman whose eyes were always so full of life. Her sister Carrie remembers how happy Diane was just before the ceremony. But Carrie has something she needs to ask her.
Why are you marrying Kevin?
I asked why she was marrying him. And her response, of course, was, I love him. There's something wrong. It's not right.
It's a tough time to do it, but Carrie admits she's never felt comfortable around Kevin.
There was this look in his eyes that wasn't right. First time he came into that house, my mother told me I was very rude to him because I just left the room.
But Diane brushes off her baby sister.
You don't know what you're talking about, you're 15 years old. But, of course, my sister never did anything anybody told her to do. Anyway, she always went for the opposite.
Carrie hopes her instinct is off and Diane is right about Kevin. After all, Diane's the one getting married, and she knows him better than anyone. Carrie decides just to enjoy the day and doesn't discuss her concerns with her mom. After the ceremony, everyone sees the two off in Diane's cute little yellow car.
I remember after the wedding, her sprawled out on her Volkswagen under a sign that they'd written on the car, just married. And she's just sprawled out on that, just as happy as can be.
But a few months after the wedding, Carrie's concern grows when Diane seems to have lost her spark.
You're going.
We're just going to the mall.
She wasn't inviting people over as much.
Plans tonight.
And these were all signs that there was possibly something going on behind closed doors that no one knew about and that she didn't want anyone to know about.
It seems Kevin begins trying to control Diane.
A few minutes.
We have plans tonight.
I can't let Carrie down. She's come all the way over.
No.
Once they were married, he started to change.
Kevin, it'll just be a few minutes, okay?
No.
Started to become this darker side of himself that she never would have expected from him.
Young Carrie sees a few things, but doesn't share them with her family, unsure of how serious the problems may be.
Okay.
It starts out as little things, Kevin saying no, she can't do something, or arguments between them.
Carrie fears he may be abusing her, but Diane swears that's not happening.
And I remember looking at her and just wanting to just shake her and have her stay home.
I'm really sorry, honey. He's just really tired, and we do have plans, okay?
But Diane doesn't listen to her little sister and stays with Kevin.
Diane was not going to let this relationship fail. This was the story of somebody who had struggled with issues of rejection and abandonment. This was not going to go wrong.
Then, 6 months into the marriage, Diane does decide it's time for a break. After another argument, she goes to visit her dad in Florida for a month to reassess the direction her life is going.
It probably went through her mind, did I make a mistake, and how am I going to save face, and what am I going to do to get out of this mess?
Had she secretly decided to leave Kevin, not telling her family? Just weeks after her return from that trip, Diane turns up murdered. Now investigators are wondering if Kevin was lying when he told them Diane had left to go back to Florida. But if he was involved in her death, he left no good evidence, and no one saw anything. Then a tip comes in that breaks the case wide open from none other than Kevin's best man.
He told me this story.
Lots of fighting.
Things were rocky, real rocky.
She's seeing some guy in Sarasota.
Is there soda?
Kevin actually said she had a boyfriend, and that Kevin had said,
I want to kill him. Kill who? Both of them?
Now police finally have a witness pointing directly to a suspect. Did Kevin think Diane had an affair when she visited her dad in Florida? And had he followed through on his wish to kill her? Soon, Diane's loved ones will have the answers they're aching for. But the truth is more devastating than they could have imagined. 4 days after Diane Murtaugh's partial remains are found, family and friends gather at the same church where Diane and Kevin married just 8 months before to remember the slain bride. Police now believe the new groom is the killer. If it's true, he's putting on quite the show at the funeral.
All you saw was his shoulders shake because he's grieving for the loss of his wife.
But after the service, detectives show up and take Kevin into custody.
The mom's falling apart up in the front. Dad is standing over her coffin. And then I turn around and I watch them take Kevin out of the chapel.
Diane's parents are utterly shocked. They never once suspected him.
if they had suspicions, they hadn't said them before. When we put him in the back of that car, it was a bombshell to them.
With no direct evidence, detectives need to get Kevin to confess to the murder. But Kevin dodges questions regarding his dead wife over and over and over. Then, after 7 hours of relentless questioning, he finally cracks.
She was taking the pills.
But he swears he didn't murder her. He claims that that night he fell asleep alone and then woke to a horrible nightmare.
She was dead in the tub.
He says he found Diane in the bathtub, dead from an overdose. Kevin says it was an intentional suicide, but her family knows that's impossible.
She wanted to live. She didn't want to die. She wanted to just get out of this relationship and move on.
I was there afterwards. I came in, I found her. I didn't...
Kevin says he didn't want her family to know about the suicide. His plan to cover it up? Strangle and dismember her to make it look like a murder. It's such an obvious and bizarre lie.
Even at the end, he was trying to look like a good guy. How preposterous, telling her family, I was trying to save you from the knowledge that she was a drug user and that she'd actually killed herself. So I made it look like a horrific, vicious murder and tore her apart. That must have made you feel better, right?
Now police have enough evidence to charge Kevin Murtaugh with the murder of his wife. But they need to find the rest of her remains.
The point that I made was, Kevin, you've already said you did what you did. Please don't allow that girl to be buried without her limbs. Please tell us where you took the arms and legs.
Yes.
He finally told the detectives that he would take them to the location where he had gotten rid of the limbs that he had severed from the body.
In another remote location, police recover the rest of Diane's remains.
Point the body out.
The rest of my wife should be over there. It's that way.
Right over there. Okay, come on, guys. Let's see what we can find.
When Diane's parents hear about the confession details, they are stunned and horrified by the extent of Kevin's evil.
As a family in that instance, the relief is that, yes, he's caught, but it's like, how did we not really see this? How did we not know he was this much of a monster?
At trial, prosecutors argue it was no accidental overdose death and cover-up. They believed Kevin realized Diane was planning to leave him because of his controlling ways, and that drove him over the edge.
If anything was going to bring up Kevin's old issues of abandonment and rejection, this was it. So when this happened, it's very likely that Kevin, who was exerting a lot of control in the relationship and was also operating from a place of fear, this is where Kevin ran the risk of becoming downright dangerous.
Toxicology reports show Diane did have sedatives in her body, but only enough to knock her out. Prosecutors believe Kevin slipped them into her drink to weaken her.
And then he got on top of her and strangled the life out of her.
At the time the rope was put around the victim's neck, she was alive. If she had been dead at the time that the rope was put around her neck, there would have been no bruising.
Then, the man who had vowed to protect her took the time to cut off her limbs, using first a kitchen knife, then an electric carving knife.
He was enjoying it. He liked it. Gave him that power that he needed to feed his ego. That's why he did it.
He then loaded her into her yellow Volkswagen and dumped the remains in 2 separate fields.
It goes just beyond a crime of passion. And the fact is, by removing her legs and removing her arms, not only could she never walk away from him, she'd never be able to hold anyone again.
On October 15th, 1978, the jury convicts Kevin Murtaugh of murder and sentences him to life in prison. The family still struggles to understand why.
He could have walked away, and none of this would have ever happened. She would be living, she would be out there having children, playing with them, watching them grow up.
For Kevin to do this to someone that he had made an oath to someone that he nested with and loved and had met the family, for him to do this, it was more horrible and tragic than anyone could have ever imagined.
Diane's sister Carrie continues to testify at Kevin's parole hearings, determined to keep him locked up.
Yes, it hurts. Yes, it's scary. But you know what? At the end of the day, I can look in a mirror and say, I fought. That's all that matters. She will always be that beautiful, vibrant, sunshine woman that she was. No matter what, Kevin will never take that away from me. She was my big sister. She was my sunshine. Even through the roughest times, she's always my light, always my beacon, and always will be.